Shabbat Shalom. The brilliant Israeli author, Shai Agnon, told the story of an old man who lived in Eastern Europe. And the old man was not well. He ached to his very bones. The doctors told him that healing would only be found in the milk of a nanny goat. And so the old man went and purchased a nanny goat and set it to pasture in his field. Now, every few days, the nanny goat would wander off for almost a week at a time. But whenever it returned with the most extraordinary milk, which brought him healing and comfort. And so the old man said to his son, "I want you to go and discover where this nanny goat wanders to, that it returns with such wonderful milk." The son determined to tie a rope to the goat's tail and fasten the other end of the rope to his own wrist. That way, whenever the goat wandered, the young man would know and follow along. One night, in the middle of the night, the young man was sleeping in the field. The goat was wandering not too far away, when sure enough, the young man was awakened by a tug on his wrist. He followed the goat out of the field, across a stream, over a mountain, into a cave. And the young man followed the goat through this cave, it seemed, for hours, until finally they emerged into a bright light. When the young man's eyes had adjusted, he realized that he was on a beautiful green hillside. And beneath the hillside, there were pools of water and waterfalls too. He let go of the rope, and the goat wandered over to one of the pools and thirstily began to drink. Now, the young man had no idea where he was. So he asked a passerby, "Can you tell me where I am?" And the passerby answered, "Of course, you are in Tzfat, the holy city in the land of Israel." "In Tzfat," the young man said to himself, "how can this be? Just hours ago, I was in my shtetl in Eastern Europe." He sat down on the hillside to take in the beauty around him. Soon the sun began to set, and when it did, some inhabitants of the town emerged clad in white garments, and together they sang, "Lecha dodi likrat kala," "Beloved, come to meet the bride. Beloved, come to greet Shabbat." And the young man said to himself, "Well, I cannot travel home now. I must remain here for the hours of Shabbat, here in the holy city." And so he did. But when Shabbat had concluded, he found a quill and some ink, and he began to write a note to his parents. He said, "Mother and Father, I have no idea how it came to be, but somehow I have arrived in safety in the land of Israel. Only take hold of the rope tied to the end of the goat's tail, and you too will be able to join me here where all is well." The young man rolled up the note and tucked it inside the goat's ear. You see, he assumed when the goat returned home, his father would pet the goat's head, the goat would flick its ears, the note would fall out, his parents would read the note, follow its instructions, and join him in the holy city of Tzfat. And so he sent the goat on its way. The goat traveled back through the cave, over the mountain, across the stream, through its field, and home. Of course, its udder was filled with the most delicious milk. But when the old man looked at the goat and saw that his son wasn't with the goat, he feared the worst. Something terrible must have happened to his son. And so, in his despondency, he never petted the head of the goat, and the goat never flicked its ears, and the note never fell out. In fact, every time the old man looked at the goat, it only reminded him of the tragedy of his loss. And so, to ease his suffering, he had the goat slaughtered by the butcher. And it was only then that the note fell out of the goat's ear. And when the old man learned of it, he said to himself, "Woe is me! Because of my despondency, I can no longer join my son who lives in joy in the land of Israel, but must live out my years here in exile." It is in many ways a beautiful story, but of course a poignant, even painful one. For Agnon, the land of Israel didn't just represent the homeland of the Jewish people, it represented hope in the future. And in so many ways, Agnon's tale resonates with this week's parashah, Re'eh. Moses is gathered with the Israelites on the east bank of the Jordan River, and they are looking out across the river to the promised land. And he says to them, "Re'eh, behold, I set before you blessing and curse." He is encouraging him in his last message to the people to remain faithful to God, to have hope and optimism as they approach the future in their new land. And he establishes this most extraordinary ritual to help convey the message. He will have the people encamp between two mountains, Mount Gerizim, a beautiful verdant hillside, and Mount Ebal, a rocky and desolate slope. And he will have half the Israelites ascend Mount Ebal and pronounce the blessings that will befall the people if they remain faithful to their vision of the future, the blessings of prosperity and security and health and joy. The other half the people will ascend Mount Ebal, and they will pronounce the curses that will befall the Israelites if they lose faith, the curse of scarcity, insecurity, fear, sickness. But the choice belongs to you, Moses says to the Israelites. The blessings are there, waiting for you, if you have the courage to seize them, if you remain faithful to our vision for the future. Both of these tales speak to me this particular Shabbat, Shabbat Mivarchim Elul, the Sabbath which announces the coming month of Elul, that period of late summer, when, according to our tradition, we turn with greatest intention back toward our faith in God and our ideals, and back toward our best vision for ourselves. The month culminates, of course, with Rosh Hashanah. On that day, we, just like the Israelites, will stand looking out across the threshold into our future. And our challenge, just as the Israelites' challenge, is to look to that future with hope. Now, that's not always an easy thing to do, particularly when the past has been difficult, frightening, as this year certainly has been. It is easy to give in to despondency. But Moses' words to the Israelites also speak to us. When he said to them, "Behold, look, see," he wasn't simply asking them to look with their eyes. You see, behold, re'eh, in Hebrew also means to prophesy, to envision, to imagine. We are encouraged to look with imagination toward the future. Sometimes one must imagine things before one builds them. And if we can look with that imagination, with that optimism, then we will see the blessings that are all about us to pluck and to savor. The blessings of family and friendship, of the values that sustain us, of the beauty that endures in the world around us. These await us, no matter how uncertain the future may be. May this coming month of Elul Strengthen us so that we might face the new year ahead with imagination and with hope. And may that new year bring us together, panim el panim, face to face, in joy, in health, in happiness, and in peace. Amen.
La 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likra kala, ya la 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 pnei Shabbat nekabela, ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likra kala. Ya la 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 la, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, ishmianu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likra kala. Ya la 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 la, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor haberacha. Merosh mikedem nesucha, sof maseh b'machshava techila. Ya la la lecha dodi, ya la 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 likra kala. Ya la la la, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom, ateret malach, gam b'simcha u'tola. Toch emuneh am segula, boi chala. Ya la la lecha dodi, ya la 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 likra kala. Ya la 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 la, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Ya la 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 la, lecha dodi, ya la 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 la, likra kala. Ya la 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 la, pnei Shabbat nekabela.
Shabbat Shalom once again, everyone. Cantor Glasman, Rabbi Ehrlich, and I are delighted to be joining you from our magnificent sanctuary, and we feel your presence too. We look out into the pews knowing where so many of our members sit, and we want you to know that you are with us here as well. We invite you to follow along in our service on our prayer book, which is available on our website. And we turn now to page 9 for the kindling of our Shabbat lights. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generation of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
Page 32, we continue with our call to worship.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
God, where shall I find you? Your glory fills the world. Behold, I find you where the farmer breaks through the hard soil, where the quarry worker explodes stone out of the hillside, where the miner digs metals out of the reluctant earth, where men and women earn their bread by the sweat of their brow, among the lonely and the poor, the lowly, the lost. You are with them in blazing heat and shattering storm. Behold, I find you in the mind free to sail by its own star, in words that spring from the depth of truth, where endeavor reaches undespairing for perfection, wherever people struggle for justice and freedom, where the scientist toils to unravel the secrets of your world, where the poet makes beauty out of words, wherever noble deeds are done. Behold, I find you in the merry shouts of children at their play, in the mother's lullaby as she rocks her baby in the cradle, in the sleep falling on an infant's eyelids, and in the smile that dances on a child's sleeping lips. Behold, I find you when dawn comes up golden, bearing gifts, and in the fall of evening bringing peace and rest from the western sea, in the joy that flows from heaven with morning light, in the current of life flowing day and night through all things, throbbing in my sinews and in the dust of the earth, in blades of grass beyond count, in every leaf and flower. Behold, I find you in the wealth of joys that quickly fade, in the pulse of the life that comes from eternity and dances in my own blood, in birth which renews the generations continually, and in death knocking on the doors of life. O my God, give me the strength never to cast off one in need, never to bend the knee before any tyrant. Give me strength to lift my spirit above the trivial, to bear lightly my joys and my sorrows, and in love to surrender all my strength to your will. For great are the gifts you have given me, the sky and the light, this my very being, life and the soul, treasures invaluable, treasures of life and of love. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be upon thy heart. Thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt speak of them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by the way, when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. Thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thine eyes. Thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thy house and upon thy gates, that ye may remember and do all my commandments and be holy unto thy God. I, the Lord, am thy God, who led thee out of Egypt to be thy God. I, the Lord, am thy God. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, a world waiting still to be redeemed, give us the courage to say, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare God's glory. May earth reveal God's justice and God's love. From Egypt, the house of bondage, we were delivered. At Sinai, amid peals of thunder, we bound ourselves to God's purpose. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, we survived oppression and exile time and again, overcoming the forces that would have destroyed us. Our failings are many, our faults are great, yet it has been our glory to bear witness to our God and to keep alive in dark ages the vision of a world redeemed. May this vision never fade. Let us continue to work for the day when nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we sing with one accord, as Israel sang at the shores of the sea.
Ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 mi chamocha bailim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh lo rati lo osefele malchut charau vanecha bokeam lifnei Moshe uMiriam malchut charau vanecha bokeam lifnei Moshe Zayli Anu ve'ameru Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Le'olam Va'ed. Together, Yalanai Lai 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 Yalanai Lai Yalanai Lai 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 Yalanai Lai Yalanai Lai 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 Yalanai Lai Yalanai Lai Yalanai Lai Lai ונאמר כי פדרוני את יעקב וגלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל Yada die da die 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 yada die da die yada die 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 yada die die yada die yada die yada die da die. Amen. Amen.
Page 37. The shadows fall, but end of day fills the eye with brightness. The infinite heavens glow, and all creation sings its hymn of glory. With hope, therefore, we pray for light within. O God, reveal yourself, hide no more. Let your face shine on all who seek you. Eternal and infinite God, banish our darkness. Be present to us as the sudden light that lifts the heart and brings us joy. Then shall we be at peace, O God, whose peaceful shelter we seek through all the days and nights of our lives.
V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Sing with us. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים, כי ששת ימים, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת. לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. אדוני שפתי תפתח, אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך ופי יגיד תהילתך. אדוני שפתי תפתח, אדוני שפתי תפתח ויגיד תהילתך ופי יגיד תהילתך. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VaNorah, Elion, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לפני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה.
A world where miracles spring up to meet us along the way, we hold you close and give thanks for morning light, for evening calm. Sun and moon, sea and sky, snow and mist, city streets and country lanes, what a joy to know you, how excellent to touch you. To live and nothing more would be enough to make us glad. Yet morning, noon, and night a task awaits us, the lost and hungry to be found and fed, the sick and sad to be healed and cheered, a peaceful world to be built and kept. Blessed is the gift of life, blessed the source of life and its holy tasks. Let us rejoice in the light of day, in the glory and warmth of the sun, in the reawakening of life to duty and labor. Let us rejoice in the light of day. In the quiet night with its rest from toil and its revelation of worlds beyond the dark, let us rejoice in the peace of night. In the earth with its hills and valleys, its widespread fields of grain, its fruit and hidden treasures, let us rejoice in the beauty of earth. We rejoice in the strength to win our daily bread, and in homes where we find refuge from the cold and storm. We rejoice in the shelter of home, in the love of fathers and mothers who have nurtured our lives, with whose blessing we have gone forth to our own work in the world. We rejoice in the love of parents, in the children who bless our homes, whose eager minds and hearts are the promise of tomorrow. We rejoice in our children, in friends who share our sorrows and joys, in the fullness of the abundant life, in the serenity of old age, and in the peace that comes at last. We rejoice and will rejoice forevermore. In a world which can feel broken and uncertain, whether from illness, the loss of economic stability, the isolation the pandemic has imposed upon us, the after effects of the most recent storm, whose impact is still a tangible presence for so many, we now pause to reach toward healing with these words on page 41. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day, this Shabbat, fulfill its promise. If you are in need of healing or are aware of someone who is, we invite you now to share those names aloud or add them to the comments so that we may include them in our prayers. for all those named aloud and those named in our hearts, please join the cantor in the prayer for healing.
Sheberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu Mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We continue with personal prayers and reflections.
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable unto you, O God, my rock and my Redeemer and my Redeemer. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגבהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 105. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Page 108. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch, a fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be and oh, to lose, a thing for fool this, holy thing, a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was a gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. At this time of tender memory, we call to our hearts and lovingly mention by name cherished members of our own congregational family. Lillian Adelman, Hyman J. Aronstam, Ruth Backrack, Susan Bykoff, Beatrice Bograd, Robert Busen, Sivia Brodsky, Arnold Kenneth Brody, Edith Brown, Alexandra Morgan Ciardi, Bertram J. Cohn, Daniel Danielpour, Andre Dimitriadis, Bertha Dinton Fass, Barbara Zarinsky Faden, Sarah Friedlander, Rose Frimet, Florence R. Garfunkel, Sidney Goodstein, Betty Guttag, Jewel Lyon Janover, Leonora Jollis, Shirley Kahn, Linda Carlin, Herbert Karp, Bernard Levy, Susan Lowenheim, Martin Lorber, Joan Linton, Peter Moore, Susan Newhouse, Bruce Michael Pernick, Richard A. Plen, Stephen Rogoff, Arlene Rogoff, Jay Rosen, Marilyn Joy Samuels, Seymour Bud Sapaden, Sheila Sarnoff, Edwin Charles Schurer, Gladys Singer, Lyle Slaff, Carolyn Strauss, Richard E. Weinrich, Herbert J. Weiss, Cynthia Zachary. If you are in recent mourning or marking a yahrzeit, our hearts are with you and we stand by you. Together, let us turn to the words of the Kaddish on page 111 as we hallow and sanctify God's name together. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, v'yomad yivrach yeruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayedechol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mivorach le'olam la'olmei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpo'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei dekudesha b'riachu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata de'amiram b'yoma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabbah min shemaya v'chayim, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved among us. We say together, amen.
Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru, amen.
Shabbat Shalom to you all, and thank you for joining us this Shabbat as we broadcast from our beautiful home, the main sanctuary. We look forward to a time when you can take your accustomed seat and join us in person. Together, let us continue to make Emanu-El a house of prayer, study, and connection for all, no matter where you are. A few announcements before we conclude. If you are looking to decompress as you begin your week, we invite you to join us in our Monday morning meditation circle at 8:30 a.m., led by Rabbi Gross Prince and Rabbi Kahn. On Monday at 10:30, Young Families offers a group on parenting toddlers. Please register online. Monday evening at 6:30, Virtual Striker welcomes the famous Rachel Brosnahan, known to most as the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. You won't want to miss that. And Wednesday afternoon at 3, Community as Family gets together by Zoom. Wednesday night at 6, join the religious school community for a town hall meeting to talk about the coming year. Registration is required, and when you register, you'll also be able to send along any questions that you might have, which can be answered during that meeting. Our support group for the Derot generation is ongoing. Please join us on Mondays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. And we encourage you to explore our website for additional opportunities to learn, whether from the Anti-Racist Resource Guide, new titles in our Stettenheim Library, summer activities for religious school students, or how to complete a healthcare proxy in this age of COVID. And remember that you are always welcome to join in our daily worship at 5:30 from the comfort of your home. As ever, please don't hesitate to reach out to us by phone or email. We hope to see you online soon and often, and who knows, perhaps very soon we'll join together right here in our sanctuary. We continue now on page 113 with Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uv'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
We continue with the singing of Adon Olam on page 119.
Adon Olam asher malach, ay didi die didi yada da da die, b'terem kol yitzir nivra, ay didi die didi yada da da die, v'yenasa v'chefso kol, ay die yada die yada die, azay melech shemo nikra, ay die yada die die. ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא עובר והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך, איי דידי די דידי ידה דה דה די, בטרם כל יציר נברא, I did yada da da die, v'yenasa b'chefso kol, I yada die yada die, azay melech shemo nikra, I yada die die, v'hu echad v'yein sheni, להמשילו להכבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא עוז והמשרה. אדון עולם אשר מלך, איי דדי די דדי ידה דה דה די, בטרם כל יציר נברא, איי דדי ידה דה דה די, ינשא בחפצו כל, איי די ידה די ידה די, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, איי די ידה די די. והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי בעת צרה והוא ניסי ומנוס לי מנקוסי ביום הקרא ירדי אדון עולם אשר מלך I did yada da da die בטרם כל יציר נברא I did yada da da die תהיה נשא בחפצו כל I die yada die אז המלך שמו נקרא I die yada die בידו הפקיד רוחי בעת ישן וירא ואם רוחי גוויתי אדוני לי ולא ירא אדון עולם אשר מלך I did yada da da die בטרם כל יציר נברא I did yada da da die תהיה נשא בחפצו כל I yada die אז המלך שמו נקרא I yada die יברכך אדוני וישמרך.
May God bless you and keep you.
יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך.
May God smile upon you and be gracious to you.
יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום, שלום.
May God's presence be with you and bring you peace.